Welcome to Design Diary, the podcast where you get to look inside my board game design notebook as well as what's going on inside my head. We look at a new word each day from the sense of mechanics, tone, theme, or inspiration for a full game. Today's word is
Cadre, a nucleus or core group, especially of trained personnel able to assume control and to train others. Broadly, a group of people having some unifying relationship, a cell of indoctrinated leaders active in promoting the interests of a revolutionary party, a member of a cadre, frame or framework. And that third definition, a member of a cadre, seems a little bogus to me because I thought you weren't supposed to define a word with the word. But
so a cadre can be made up of people. It can be made up of cadres.
Yeah, I mean, you think they'd find a synonym for it there, but I don't know. Yeah, that is neat. So I have three these vague ideas that are more in my head than anywhere else, and they're all very abstract. I don't know where you took this.
I have one big idea, and I guess I have thoughts on specific mechanisms that would go into the game. Okay. So I want to hear what you have first.
Okay, so I'm going to just go through each of them. So I thought of, and I don't know the term for it. Have you ever seen those games where it's like a miniatures game, but the miniatures are on one base? It's like they're usually like a Revolutionary War army or something, but it's like 6 of the same soldier on this little base, and the whole base moves.
Yes,
I don't know what they're called, and I was trying to look them up by the term, and I was like, base army miniature games or miniature connected games. I couldn't find any of it, but whatever those games are. First of all, I feel like it's so boring to me. And I look at it and I'm just like, it's like 6 guys on a thing. And I'm just big on identity. I want every person to have their own little character and everything. But so I thought of those groupings in whatever this game is. I thought of like an area control because I think of any sort of tactical war game as an area control thing. But I thought of those connected groups growing. So that's your nucleus, that's your cadre, and part of the definition was that where did I have it written down here? But that they also in another definition I looked up that they also train other people, and I thought of it growing. So you have one of those little tiny stick of a group war game, and then more connect to it, and more connect to it, and more connect to it. Mm-hmm. So this thing eventually grows and is working its way around the map as this big mess. But so that's where that idea kind of ended. But the first thing I thought was those connected characters for whatever reason. But I thought of what's that?
I definitely think about that as well because I wanted each of these people to have a personality. And so when I think of cadres, I don't know if you could count a SWAT team as a cadre, is a baseball team a cadre?
I think all of that applies, yeah.
And so, you don't want to have, right fielder. You want to have, Daryl Strawberry. You want to have, a specific person in this larger group.
Yeah.
The larger group can be non-specific or whatever you want, but you want each of these individual people to have personality. So exactly. I'm glad you picked up on that too.
Yeah, I can't deal with that. We're just an unknown infantry stuck together, and we only behave as one. Mm-hmm. That shuts me out immediately. All right, so here's the second idea, and I'm just going to run through these. It was something very, very abstract. Where imagine a board that's gridded, something like a chessboard, but bigger because each grid would have a little tiny 3x3, almost like Rubik's Cube, 9 cube square. So every square is made up of these 9 smaller squares. And you start out with your group and let's just say we're just playing cubes on this little chessboard. My group is the 9 cubes that are red. Yours are the white ones. I can move them as a group, and they end up going out of the. So imagine the outer squares being very defined and the inner squares being less defined, so you can see where each little cube goes in there. I can move as a group from one section to another, and the group is extremely strong. And if you're trying to take over areas, each one the strength in numbers really helps. But then I thought there's some sort of worker of sorts, and they can move as a group, spreading influence throughout. But they can also spread out individually and try to get a wider reach. So your cadre has kind of two things. One is it's the strength in numbers, and two, it's the ability to spread out and hit these areas that are farther away. So I thought, any group where this was neat, and then the third one's the really neat one. So any group where you have the majority in the outer square, you would either gain them or gain points or gain control of the area or whatever it was. So moving as this group, if I move into one where you have like 2 or 3 guys, all of a sudden I have majority there. I take it over, and I even thought of like almost like a zombie mechanic where if my guys touch yours, now they're part of my cadre. It's growing. And every idea I had was like this cadre has to grow. You know, we have to teach more people as we're going around. So that was sort of my second idea, which is very vague. But my third idea is the one I'm really excited about, which was a board with 100 tokens on it. So same thing. These are all very abstract. A 10 by 10 grid, 100 tokens. And all of them are different colors, and all of them behave differently, and they're all part of different, like some are scientists, some are historians, some are teachers, and they all have different ways that they behave. But what you have is this ring. And I thought of it as a square one because I was kind of hooked on my other idea. But just imagine some sort of ring that you can just not throw onto the board, but place onto the board, and it surrounds the X amount of figures that you can. So let's say it surrounds 9 figures. When I put that down around those 9 figures, that determines how I'm going to work this turn. I might have 4 scientists, which means I'm heavy on the science this turn. I can either take 4 science actions or have 4 science points for whatever I'm doing. And I got a couple historians in there. And imagine like this group of 100 people just represents, I said that it represents all of America for whatever reason. And I'm dropping this down, getting these groups at a time, and it's sort of forming my own cadre of other people to do my work. It's just sort of just forming a group. But I thought of just the way that you could like eyeball this board, figure out the 9 you want, and then like section them off with this thing, and then they're done. And now you have your ring, and you're going to section off a group. And it's an extremely abstract game where, you know, if you section off a group that's really close to mine, then your ring doesn't fit. Like you can corner people off so they can't fit a ring around certain people, and then those ones are kind of wasted. I don't know if there's anything like that. It's sort of like
it
just
reminds me. It reminds me of a game that I wanted to design with pegs and string, where you're literally like looping string around each of those.
That's so cool. That's a great.
So,
I thought
like
even
that would fit in pretty well.
You know, like the dot game where you draw the dot, you connect the dots and make the squares. Like you could do this just on paper, essentially.
Right.
But I just thought of it it's just like you have a defined shape that you're able to create an area with, and within that area are people that they do have strength in numbers. So if you get 4 scientists, you're going to be heavy on the science. But if you get a big variety, it gives you a lot of different action types. And the whole idea of it was, though, how you could you're restricting your opponent's moves by how close you go to an edge. If there's not if it has to be, if it's a square and it's 3x3, if there isn't a 3x3 area, then they can't take that area, and things would happen. That's as far as I got. So I went so abstract with it. So I'm curious if you...
Yeah, you really did.
I got hooked on this like chessboard thing.
Chessboards are like the farthest thing from my mind when I try and design a game.
That's awesome.
I played a lot of chess as a kid, and I am getting away from it. But yeah, so mine actually, I wanted to go a little bit more thematic. Talking about gathering a group. So the definition that I worked from was a small group of people specifically trained for a particular purpose. So there's 3 sections in there: a small group of people, training, and a particular purpose. So imagine Ocean's 11. Danny Ocean is going around and he's gathering people together for his team. And then they run through the scenario to make sure that they're doing it right, and then they achieve their job. And so these 3 kind of sections would all be represented by different mechanisms in the game. And so I was thinking about deck building specifically, but with a lot of deck building games, the cards don't really have personality. Either they are actions or they are very abstract. They don't really tell a story, and the cards don't necessarily represent people with like Star Realms, it's specific ships, but like they aren't
Yeah.
named. They're just like specific types. And so I wanted, each of the cards that you get have a personality. So
Nice.
you can, so you gain connections with these people as you use these cards over and over and over again. So you get familiarity by playing the same cards over and over. Obviously, you'd want to get more, so it's not all the same. But there has to be, with emotional connection, I want there to be negative emotional connections when you lose those people as well. Have you ever played Slapshot?
No, I don't even know what it is.
So Slapshot is a hockey game that was actually redesigned by Kwanchai Moria.
Yes.
And he replaced hockey players with figures from pop culture. So you can have a hockey team made up of Yoda as the goalie, Superman as a player, the Joker as defense, that kind of stuff. And so you have this hand of 6 cards, and there are bruisers in the game. So when you play a card and someone else plays a bruiser, it takes out the card that you just played.
Okay.
And so these people that have been on your team from the very beginning, when they get hit by a bruiser, it just hits you. You're like, no, Superman. Out of all the cards that I could have played right then, I had to lose Superman.
And it's out for the game?
It's out for the game. You don't get it back. And so with deck building, when you're building your engine, you get those great cards, those cards that you would really hate to lose. You get those cards at the end of the game. And so you don't get that emotional connection that much with them.
Yeah, of course.
So you normally wouldn't lose those cards even if you had the chance. If you had to trash some cards in your deck, you wouldn't choose your best card.
Exactly.
So I wanted getting rid of cards from your deck is not entirely within your control. And then I wanted I basically wanted you to start with a deck, grow that deck, and then get your deck smaller than when it started.
Okay.
So you have this core set of people as other people either get arrested or die or decide that the heat is too much and they decide to quit the group. These people leave for certain reasons when you send them out on missions. And so, I mean, that's what I wanted to do was you have people, you send them out to locations to recruit more people into your group. You can send multiple people in a group to go to a mission. Certain missions have a chance of risk that those people might not ever come back. And then, so as the game goes on, you want to get rid of more cards, and so you send them out on riskier missions. So yeah, that was the thought that I had for Cadre.
Have you played Charterstone yet?
No.
So I mean, what you were saying makes me think of Charterstone in that and even like Pandemic Legacy and things like that. Any of those games where you just become attached to your characters, and in Charterstone, you get these characters in the game, and it's not a spoiler to say that you can carry some over. It might be a game 1 spoiler, but by game 2, they allow you to carry characters from one game to the next. And it's not all; it's basically how well you do determines how many you can carry over.
Right.
It is a hard decision to give them up, and sometimes it's just most of the time it's just because of what they do, but sometimes it's because like I did well with this character before, and I have a better one, and I know this one is better for my next game, but this one was so good to me in the last game. This one did me well. And there's a weird emotional attachment where I'm like, I know this one's better, but I can't let this one go. Like that's something that you don't see much in games where if you have a choice and you know one's better, you always go with the better. But that carryover is really interesting.
Yeah.
So I've only seen that in Legacy or a campaign style game, and it would be really interesting to see it in a single game.
Yeah, that would be awesome. When playing Super Slapshot, like yeah, ET is a really bad goalie, but do you really want him to get hurt by other people? Not really.
So are you just making up the characters, or are they actually in that game?
They're actually in the game and illustrated by Quanchai,
Oh,
and
that
they
is so
are
cool.
awesome.
That is so.
So you can download the whole thing on BGG,
Wow.
and so it was one of the first print and play games that I ever made, and it is just outstanding. Just a fun little game where you play matches against different people, try and score goals, try and figure out the order that they're going to play cards, and yeah, like you get emotionally connected to. Obviously, part of it is nostalgia because you like seeing these interesting people, and that I guess that would be hard to build in an original IP where you're not connected. But yeah, legacy elements or naming these people on your own can instill some heart into them so that when they do leave, it just breaks your heart.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that if you already know the character, you cut a lot of that, like you instantly feel for them. You don't want to lose Superman because you know who Superman is, as opposed to somebody. I'm sure it plays very differently than the game on its own.
Right.
Like emotionally, I think it's probably different.
Yeah, the original version was, yeah, just like hockey stereotypes. They weren't specific people. And so, yeah, you could see, oh no, I lost my number 12 instead of, oh no, I lost Superman. I want people to be able to talk about the cards in their hand like they were people.
That familiarity, creating some sort of emotion makes me want to make a game where you have to name characters, but you have to name them after like your real family or something. And it can't be something like that's completely terribly down or like, it can be a positive game, but I feel like there is connection when you have to name it off some people you know. Some people just don't want to play something that's based in reality and they want to escape, so that's not it. But knowing Superman and knowing like my brother or something definitely gives you it cuts out a lot of that middleweight where it's you're trying to build a connection to somebody that you don't know and you're going to be done within an hour.
Yeah, whenever I would play Oregon Trail, I would always name the people in my family after my real family, even though we were not real pioneers. And I was always sad when Wookie, my dog, who was a person in the game, would die.
I got in trouble for calling Oregon on pub over the weekend because there's a street in Philadelphia I called it Oregon Avenue. It's Oregon Avenue, and I got yelled at for that. So.
Yeah, so more emotional connection in games, I am all for.
Yeah, I mean, can you think of one that you've had an emotional connection with lately?
I'm trying to think. So, I mean, the games that I wrote down that the one that I kind of got connected to, and it has a group in it, Castell. Have you played Castell?
Is that the castle building? Oh no, that's the
people stacking.
The people stacking. I've seen it,
yes.
and the theme seems amazing, and it looks really good. I almost got to play it at Granite Game Summit, but I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, so you gather these people from all across region in Spain, and you always keep them kind of face up on the table in front of you. And during your other people's turns, you're just kind of rearranging your people, trying to see how tall they can go. You don't lose them or anything like that, but like you're proud of them when they go to certain festivals and like do well, even though they're just like these little figures on the table. Like, this is your group. You have them until the very end. They grow, and you see them do so much better from the beginning to the end. And so, yeah, if I could feel that kind of connection to my little tower that looks a little bit different than your tower, if I could get actual people, and I'm sending them to locations, and they might not come back, and when I find out that they don't, if I amp the risk and amp the connection, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's always a goal, is that attachment and leaving with feelings and, being able to discuss it when it's over with. That's always a huge, huge goal. A goal for me for a long time has been trying to convey fear in a game, for example. And it's just like, other than just the fear of randomness, it's a very hard thing to put out there, especially for the second play. Like, that's where it gets really difficult.
Yeah, have you heard of nyctophobia?
I've heard the name, but I don't know what it is.
So it's a game coming out from Pandasaurus where players play with blackout glasses.
Oh,
and they're basically feeling their way around the board as someone is like chasing them down.
So on the other end, have you seen the Twister that comes with those glasses?
No.
That's actually a thing. It's Twister with blackout glasses. I believe it was glasses or blindfolds or something, which is just like calling for a lawsuit.
So there's two different ways you can go about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that sounds really neat. I like anything where your sight is limited, the candle, the little like a little hole that you look through, the lasers that shine and create, like anything with like light and other senses, and I love all that.
Super exciting. Well, I want to make any and all of these games, although chessboard with cubes might need a little bit more theme to.
That is where I start
to make it where you can pitch.
I don't like games with a 3x3 grid, and I just designed one and love it. So it's like one of those weird things where I embraced something that I hated, and now I'm stuck in that mode. All right, cool.
I hate 3x3 grid. Cunning Folks is a 3x3 grid.
I like Cunning Folk. We must have got 30 submissions to our last contest with 3x3 grids. I think I burned out on them. That's what it is.
That makes sense.
All right, cool. Well, this was fun. We'll be back in a week, and this is our longest episode by like 6 minutes. So
sweet.
Hope people like that because I had fun.
Me too.
All right, cool. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.